Welcome back to another edition of Scene Stealers, where we sit down with our favorite actors and talk about our favorite scenes. Today, we are blessed to be joined by a downright legend and icon of American stage and cinema, Mr. Bill Pullman.
What a nice introduction. Thank you.
It's an introduction you deserved. I am honored to be having you here. The first movie we're going to watch is a movie called Igby Goes Down. Okay, it's a scene from Igby Goes Down, directed by Burt Steers, written by him as well. Stars you, Susan Sarandon, Kieran Culkin, Jeff Goldblum, Ryan Felipe, Amanda Peet. An insane, incredible cast. And before we play this scene, I'm actually going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to tell you about the first time I saw this movie.
Yeah.
I went to a boarding school, not unlike the Slocums. And me and my friend ran away, not unlike Igby. And he was a big fan of film, and he showed me this, and he showed me Requiem for a Dream.
Oh.
He showed me this and Requiem for a Dream, and they both stuck with me so well, so hard. But this scene in particular stuck with me for, it's been what, 20 years now? It is an incredible representation of a breakdown of a schizophrenic man who is just crushed by the weight of the world. And I was rewatching this, I probably haven't seen it since 2002, and I was rewatching it the other night in preparation for this, and I was like, why did this scene stick with a 15-year-old so much? Like,
It's so
what
painful.
was I thinking?
Oh.
Why was this so important to me? But it really was. 'Cause I think you did such beautiful work, and let's give it a watch.
Oh, God. There's a weird story goes with this. I'll try to be quick. But, I was shooting in New York, and it was uptown, and my family was here. My kids were really young. They were about Rory's age.
No way.
And they've been trying to come to the set, and my wife was, trying to manage the three kids, all wanting to come to the set, and couldn't be that day, couldn't be that. And then they, I forgot and lost track what was going on, and they said, we can come in today. Okay, and this was one of a couple of scenes we were shooting that day.
Right.
And right when I'm in the shower, we were getting ready for the first take, the second AD that was, came forward and said, okay, your family is here now. And I said, we gotta change the plan, send them home.
Oh my God, no way.
Yeah.
So did you change the plan? Did you end up?
Yeah, they hustled them out. They were right there, like right up in front of the monitors were close. It was all small on location and everything. It was terrible.
I can't even imagine seeing that as seeing your dad do that if you were Lewis or someone like that at that age. Seeing like, what is wrong with Dad?
Yeah.
That's got to be a hard thing. Now, when you're playing a character that has such extremes, is that something that's hard for you to leave on set?
Well, that kind of thing, even watching it now, I haven't watched it in so long. Because they're, you draw on different things. There were different, levels of getting involved. But that was, my mother was schizoaffective. And so, there was, it runs through our family, So, and I think for a long time I was, had kind of compartmentalized it all and everything. You access it for something like this, but then it goes away. But the older I get, I think I'm kind of getting resensitized to those elements of, when people's mental stability is taken for granted,
But you did truly an incredible job. I've had my own struggles, and I remember as a young person just looking to you and being like, he gets it. Like that.
He made it through.
I understand how to do it. Like he's living all right, but it's breaking him down at times. It was truly one of the performances that stuck with me the most throughout my life. It was really nice.
Well,
thank you very much.
Yeah, lucky to be part of it. Yeah.
What we got next, Pavs? Lost Highway.
Where was it you think we met?
At your house, don't you remember?
No, I don't. Are you sure?
Of course. As a matter of fact, I'm there right now.
What do you mean you're where right now?
At your house.
How scary is that?
Oh my God.
Does Robert Blake, does he blink this whole movie?
Yeah, he does.
I think every single scene is terrifying.
Just was thinking about that, watching it. I thought, boy, he's really not blinking at all. I wonder if he did on, his series.
And then at the end of the film, when you come back and he's got the recorder and he's following you, I don't think he blinks at all the whole time.
Right.
It's an incredible, terrifying performance. But what was it like for you doing a movie like this, working with someone such as the great David Lynch? Like, what does he say when he calls you, I guess? What does David Lynch say when he calls you?
Well, he was so just like somebody that could have been in my family. There's something very Midwestern, Western New York State is where I'm from, and he was so friendly, and not at all talking a lot about motivations or not interested in pumping my brain with a lot of things about what the role was all about. He was the opposite.
Oh,
he
really?
was like, didn't want to explain, didn't, and there was so much that, but in some ways, what he said was so like acid burned in my head with just the simplest instructions, maybe because he didn't overtalk or didn't overthink, but he go into one of the other scenes that's classic, and this is when I go down the hallway. The
hallway,
the
yes.
darkness of it all.
The moment the hallway pops on screen, it like grabs the viewer. I felt like I was in the hallway. I don't know how he does it. I felt like I was in it.
How many movies have hallway scenes? I mean, they can be suspenseful, but this is like, and does he got any help for me? Because it's just me walking in. But he surrounded it with the lighting and the camera and Peter Demings, and everybody was like really, this got to be intense. But it's just me, experience. And he said, okay, this is where you come here, and then you start walking, and it goes kabuki.
Is that what he said?
Yeah. Back to one, What a metaphor, like with a metaphor.
It goes
Jesus.
kabuki. Now, when you're on set, when you're walking down that hallway, are you feeling it, what we're feeling as a viewer, or is that done in post?
No, that, he is also one of those, very rarely, but a few people, like to have music that is going to be like soundtrack music playing while you're doing things.
Oh, no way.
And he really wanted that with Rammstein.
Yeah.
That whole period, that kind of really crashing, punky stuff. And so we would, when I walked into the motel scene, and the dealing with the trunk and dealing with, getting what happened to Mr. Eddie kind of thing. And, but he would have that, Rammstein playing for crew, which is a good idea for the first take, but then the crew is all excited, it's a great take, but then you got to do it 3 or 4 times, and so it became kind of like, it started to like interfere with me performing it. It became something I had to ask him if he could not play it after 2,
I could see that. I guess
That's it.
weighing on you a
It
bit.
was like, I feel like I should have a microphone to be doing.
You mentioned the trunk scene, and I was thinking something when I was watching it. You're throwing Robert Lagosha in the trunk. How cool is it as an actor to have video of you at your most high capabilities at every age? You know what I mean? Like, I was watching you be just a fucking man, like throwing a guy in the car. Yeah. And most of us, when our videos are us kind of waving awkwardly at a birthday party or something like that. You have this wealth of footage of you living, which is pretty cool.
Really, I think of that when I see myself jump.
Yeah.
Because I would do all that stuff myself, so that I didn't want anybody to really do it, but to have, no fear, and your knees are at risk, your ankles are at risk, the movie's at risk, but I got to do it.
Yeah, that's right. I never think about that, but the movie's at risk, of course.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about here The Burrows, what you're here promoting for Netflix. Stars yourself, Alfred Molina, Gina Davis, produced by the Duffer Brothers. It's a retirement community in New Mexico that's got some stuff happening behind the scenes. You play the, I'll call it a parrot head neighbor, Jack?
parrot head.
Right? Kind of like a Jimmy Buffett type fan.
Yeah.
He's a party boy, right?
That's a true thing. Yeah. He's a self-appointed welcome wagon. Shows up with a six-pack, takes some back with him when he leaves. If they haven't drank it all, then he's taking it with him. And it was it's a Jack.
Jack was a fun one. How cool is it? Jack has a line in this movie, in the show. We were speaking about grief. And Jack says, grief makes it feel like the past is too close and the future is too far away. And I heard that line and I was like, how fucking cool is it to just get to say those lines?
Yeah.
What a beautiful line. What a great piece of advice and perspective. And to get to just be able to say that is cool.
Yes. And they're not just to write that, but these two writers, showrunners, Jeff and Will, know enough to just have a little bit of poetry. And that's a little bit of poetry. But it comes as a surprise.
Yeah.
Because you're not overindulged.
No, you're not. It's really really great. Like the kind of a character. Every character is very interesting. I love Peter Clark's character. He's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
You're banging
Clark
his wife.
Peters.
But,
Yeah. He really, he was a joy to work with.
He was awesome. He was really great. That is out now. Go check it out. The Burrows on Netflix, starring once again Bill Pullman. Our next scene. Independence Day, of course, the big one. President Whitmore here. Let's just play it and we'll talk afterwards.
Perhaps it's fate that today is the 4th of July, and you will once again be fighting for our freedom. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate Independence Day.
You've probably seen that
Big, yeah.
100 million times. Does it ever get old?
For me, it's just I love that shot when it goes to Robert Loggia. It just gathers and gathers, but then I had such a big I dug that guy so much.
Robert Loggia?
Yeah.
Honestly, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
He's great in this.
Yeah,
he's great in
chief of
Lost
staff.
Highway.
Yep. He was in Lost Highway. I worked 3 times in a row with him, which I've never done anybody else. But because first was Independence Day, and my brother John, who's 2 years older than I am, he's a doctor. But we always had a thing about Robert Loggia.
No way.
Yeah, he was, Swamp Fox and Disney, and he was, he did a lot of TV that he played all ethnicities, But
he had the Pacino.
Yeah. But he was the only actor. I didn't really. We weren't around people that knew movies, or there was. But somehow we locked in on Robert Loggia, and I always remember he called me when he was doing his residency, and he was up late at night, and he goes, "I just saw Big, the movie Big," and I go, "Oh, great!" And we both simultaneous, Robert Loggia. He was in Big. Do you remember when he tap dances on the keyboard and everything? And it just like we worshipped him. And then there he was on the friggin' set of Independence Day as my chief of staff. And the phones were huge, but I never had done it since. It's like the worst thing to do to actors. But I said, Robert, would you just say hello to my brother? And so we said, this is Robert Loggia. It's here. I'm working with Robert Loggia.
No way.
And so that, I just loved him in that. And then I said, look, I'm going to do this David Lynch movie next. And there's a great part in there for you. Have people talked to you? Oh, no, that'll never happen. That'll never happen. Why? Oh, it's an incident. And he had gone to a previous movie. I can't remember which movie it was. And he was told to meet David and talk about doing the part. And it was towards the end of the day, and Robert was told when to be there, and he was there, and it was running late, and it ran really late, and Robert said, "I'm out of here." And they couldn't get him to stay, and he left. So he said, he'd never use. And then sure enough, he uses them. David gets them, they get together, they put all the, bygones are bygones, and he was great in that. And then I got a third movie that was about a cop who goes rogue and holds a courtroom hostage. And Robert played my commander, who comes to the whole scene of the hostage situation where I've taken him at the whole courtroom hostage, and he comes and deals with me. So we were lifelong friends.
How nice is that to show up on set and see a familiar face?
Yeah, somebody.
Like, I got backup here. I got someone here who's with me, who understands me.
Yeah, and of that generation that you just revere so much, the way he carries himself. It's like a Sinatra guy or something. That's the closest I ever got to that kind of thing.
Now, the Independence Day scene, you're a man of the theater. Doing that scene in front of people, did that kind of scratch that itch? Did that feel a little more like live performance in front of that bigger crowd?
Yeah, there was that, there was a lot of CGI in that crowd.
Was there a lot of that? In a Roland Emmerich movie?
That last shot, how we went over every detail of that last shot to get the wide. But it wasn't that many.
So how many roughly people were there?
It was probably, maybe they had 30 or something like that.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. I definitely thought, I didn't think there were hundreds, but I definitely thought more than 30. They can
They
really
moved
do it.
them around.
Yeah.
But it was also in the middle of the night. I remember, Jesus, this is going late, and it came up fast, but then when it became important. We moved it up earlier in the shooting schedule, so I hadn't even had that much time to look at it. But they were, Fox was wondering whether Independence Day was the right title, and they wanted something. God, I blocked
Doomsday.
it. Doomsday, you know the story.
Crazy.
Oh my God! So Doomsday. So Dean Devlin and Roland were like, "Come on, you gotta do this. We'll move it up. We're gonna show it to the executives. They'll have no other choice. And if we get this thing shot, it's gonna be our. There's no denying that this is gonna have power."
Right.
And so we did. That was a little bit of a good pressure to have on it, because it did feel like, we might lose it all, kind of like the movie story.
Yeah.
Like, if it gets to be Doomsday, I don't know how to get out of this movie. I don't want to be Doomsday. And, oh my God.
Have you ever been on the wrong side of something like that? Like, obviously you were so right. It has to be called Independence Day, not Doomsday.
Yes.
Has there ever been a time where you were like, it should be something else, but you were wrong?
Yes. That was, I've seen a movie that was an old Charles Beaumont was a writer for Twilight Zone episodes, and he and this director Adam Simon, who is a really good director and knew that genre, had wanted to do this movie, which was called Paranoia, and the byline was "Paranoia is total awareness." So Paranoia was a great title.
Yeah.
When you think of that, it was Confucius, that said total awareness, and then Roger Corman, who was producing the movie, said no, that nobody knows that word. It's like paranoia. You don't know. Yeah, it's over the heads of the audience, of whatever audience he was expecting to have. So that's when he came up with Brain Dead. And that is the opposite of total awareness. I don't know why it could go that bad. I could understand like paranoia, like scared or something would have been another. But brain dead is down. Yeah.
Paz, last one. We got time for one more. Spaceballs. One more here. Lone Star. This is 87, directed by Mel Brooks. Lone Star. Bill Pullman, John Candy.
Hello, Lone Star.
Sorry, wrong switch.
Hello, Vinny. What do you want?
No. It's not what I want. It's what he wants.
Pizza the Hut! Well, if it isn't Lone Star, and his sidekick, Puke.
That's barf.
Barf, Puke, whatever.
What? That is an incredible role, obviously, an insane movie. But one thing I want to ask first before we get into that a little more, I just watched the John Candy documentary. John Candy, I Like Me, produced by Ryan Reynolds. Incredible man. The word Dan Aykroyd used in his eulogy was grand. He said he was a grand man. I was wondering if you had an example, something that stuck with you about how grand John Candy was.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, and having gone through shooting the sequel, thinking a lot about him, and it was so important to me at that time because I had done just this one little, scene in Ruthless People, and then all of a sudden I'm the lead, and, Mel was kind of joking about it. It was a miracle that he picked me from a play. He'd come to see a play that I did.
Like Hanks and Cruz turned it down, right?
Yeah, he said, we tried to get a Tom. We tried to get Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, and we got a bill, like a little bit like, yeah, okay, but it's still a good part, right, Mel? And but then John kind of felt like I think he decided he was going to take me under his wing because he was very established, by that time. And very powerful. He and Mick both had a lot of say about what they did within their scenes. And John would invite me to his trailer to have lunch.
No way.
Which was always a great thing. That was grand. And then it was also grand as his big beau geste, was Friday, so end of the week, and he only worked half the day. And it was a Dodger day. And he had tickets to the Dodgers. And so all morning he was going, I'm going to go to the Dodgers after this, and you'll all be working, and he was like punishing everybody, and everybody's loving it, and then finally he goes, okay, big exit with his black car, Frankie his driver, we're off to the Dodgers, and okay. And then about 15 minutes later, this kind of almost it felt like a big box truck, came down and opened the doors and outloaded Dodger dog carts. He had like 5 Dodger dog carts filled with hot dogs, Dodger dogs, and we all got Dodger dogs for the whole cast and crew.
God. What an answer.
Yes,
I asked that question. I wasn't expecting an answer that good.
It was good.
Unbelievable. That is quite the grand gesture.
Yeah. And he was so generous that way, and so, and you can feel that in I Like Me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you also recognize the burden of being that kind of guy, So there's times where I don't like me. As he was, he was aware that he would be too thoughtful of everybody or something,
Too much of a people pleaser, right?
Yeah, just really, and so, just his sense of humor was so uniquely precious and, whimsical.
So warm. Like the moment he's on screen, you just feel better about yourself and your day and everything.
Yes.
Really an incredible talent.
Yeah, really, really great that way. Was that memorial televised? Is that how you?
It's on Amazon Prime.
Oh, the 2-part series, and it was just.
Oh yes. So that starts. It starts the I Like Me starts with it's showing. I guess it's not John's funeral because he was buried in L.A., but a service in Toronto.
In Toronto, okay.
And Aykroyd is it's dubbed over. It's not like the live performance, but you hear it, and wow, it is a beautiful, beautiful eulogy.
Wow, great, good.
Thank you very much for sitting down with us, Mr. Bill Pullman. Go check out The Burrows. It is on Netflix right now. A genuine and true hero of American stage and screen. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, John. Great to have your knowledge of film.
Thank you.
Calling upon it every day here at the Bar Stool.